Remember, what it is that you seek is not behind you, it's in front of you. And this is just the first step. Hello international friends, this is Brendan and you're about to watch my conscious movie review for Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Now to get right into this, I will be giving some spoilers as to the plot to be able to talk about the themes a little bit more, but if you haven't seen the movie yet, go check it out. It is a consciousness shifting movie with several themes that are helping remind us more about this reality and just how real the Force actually is. Also, if you haven't seen the movie that I made right before this, The Secret Reason as to Why People Love Star Wars, then go check it out. It talks more about the underlying theme of the Force, and the links are in the info below. The story of The Force Awakens begins with us finding out that Luke has vanished. He is the last Jedi Knight, and in his absence, Kylo Ren and the First Order have moved forward with the tyrannical push into the universe, and Kylo Ren is looking for Luke so that he can kill him and get rid of all the Jedi Knights and continue to rule the galaxy using the dark side of the Force. But hope arises when BB-8, the droid unit, contains a secret map as to where Luke may be. So it's moving forward to the idea of them trying to find Luke, fight against the First Order, and discovering the Force within themselves along the way. Now, in terms specifically of the conscious themes within this, of course, the Force is what this movie is about. And as you've probably heard or seen in my last video, the Force is kind of like a metaphor for our interconnectedness to reality. They explain it, you know, it's something that weaves through everyone, it interconnects us, and it is us. So it's really interesting to think about how the shift in consciousness is portrayed within this movie in terms of the Force being a myth, but eventually the Force becoming something real through the awareness of direct experience. The theme of the Force is actually very prevalent throughout this movie, yet also subtle. And one of the things that I find it interesting is the idea of how the Force is compared to synchronicity. It's the coinciding incidences, the coincidences with meaning. Even though they don't use the word synchronicity, that's really what it's all about. The synchronicity is the Force. It is the interwoven web that connects us all. We're here right now, but we also exist as branches into the future. So the Force is aware of all these branches, even though our present awareness may be very, like, you know, within our own bubble. So through the idea of like the future already existing, it has the ability to connect people in certain points in the same way like neural networks connect within the brain. It has a gravitational field all in itself. Think about the way how like Finn happened to land on the planet and like happened to run into Rey, and then Rey happened to have the BB-8 droid, you know, she happened to find it, and then they happened to steal the Millennium Falcon, which happened to be Han's ship, which led them to connect with the Resistance, who were exactly who they were trying to deliver the secret map to. Like all these things just sort of pieced together. So as the sake of a movie, it's just like, oh yeah, you know, that's cool, it's a movie. But when you step back and you're actually looking at like the realness of what's actually happening here, the universe is hyper conscious beyond our own awareness, so it can move us towards things without us fully being aware of what it is that we are taking part in, but it knows what it's doing, and it's doing what it can do to be able to grow and evolve its consciousness. Through the awareness of that, it actually empowers us beyond this movie, because again, you know, like I do things like free hugs and going out and doing shiftivism, and I use the Force when I do that, because when I go out there, I know that the Force is going to help like connect me with the people who I'm supposed to connect with. It's going to help us build the tribe in that sense. It's going to help us find the other Jedis. One of the coolest things within this movie, I think, is how we see Han Solo's character transforming. We look back to the very first episode of Star Wars, episode 4, and we listen to Han, and he basically says,
"You don't believe in the Force, do you?"
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything.
And now, as we see within this movie, he's just like, you know, I've been around enough people, I've hung out with Luke enough to know that the Force actually is quite real.
It's true. All of it.
So Han is like a direct mirror of kind of what culture is doing. So like if Han Solo can believe in the Force, then surely more of us can believe in the Force as well. And that's the thing, like the Force is going to be real whether or not you believe in it. The Force believes in you. So the Force is you. Believe in yourself. And so, of course, another really cool conscious theme within this is the whole character of Rey. We see Rey as the echo of the awakening of the divine feminine, which I think is super cool because she's a real, very likable character. She's very compassionate, she's very kind, but she's also very brave and courageous. So her character alone has the potential to spark the divine feminine awakening within any of the people who see it, you know. And I think that's a really cool thing, is that we're seeing that. We're seeing more of these empowered female guardian types coming into themselves, coming into their place within this world, and really making a difference on a lot of levels. So I mean, having her as the main protagonist, as the main hero, heroine within this story, I think was a very important and deliberate conscious theme that, again, is going to be able to help consciousness do what it can to help wake itself up. Because having the male is one thing, but having the female really brings more of it all together, and it's about remembering both of the energies within inside all of us. And so having the courage and the determination and the focus to move forward with action, but also the compassion and the intuition to be able to take things with a little bit of flow and move where the Force takes us in that sense. Now, going into this movie, I had a really good hunch. You know, like the closer I got to this movie, the more I could feel it, and I had a really good instinct, intuition, that I felt the Force, of the idea that there was going to be some sort of shaman character within it. So one of my favorite scenes within The Force Awakens is when they meet Maz Kanata. Now, Maz Kanata is an old friend of Han, apparently, and we don't really see much of her in the trailer, but she's kind of like the new Yoda. She's like this small stature character who basically has an awareness of the Force, yet she isn't a Jedi. And now, in the same way as to how the previous Star Wars worked, and again, I talked about this in my last video, how like there's sometimes like these like one-liners that are really just like hitting it home, and they're speaking like so much truth. And that is what I think makes this movie cool, is that within like all of the action and all the explosion, the movie gets the audience so engaged. And if they're engaged even to just hear this one line or this one scene within the movie, it plants that seed. And again, that's what obviously this movie is doing, is planting seeds and really hyping it up for the next ones. So Maz Kanata has this scene where she is talking to Rey about the Force, and she says, you know, like, the light is always inside of you. I can't remember exactly what she says, but, you know, she says, like, you know, she literally says, like, the light is everything. We are everything. We are the light. Like, we're seeing beyond the illusion, and the light is always inside of you. Which, again, for people who have explored the metaphysical natures of reality, you'll know that there's actually a lot of truth. There is truth to that. That is true. And the light is also malleable as well, and that is where the potential of the Force comes into play in terms of being able to co-create within this reality. So what I really liked about Maz Kanata's character was the reminder that the Force isn't something just for Jedi. You know, even in the last video I was talking about like the awakening of the Jedi and everything like that. But it's important to distinguish the idea that the Force is something that anybody can interact with, you know? You don't have to be a Jedi. Being a Jedi is a choice. Being a Jedi is, again, like that guardian role that is often active. But being in tune with the Force can be whatever it needs to be for you. And I really think of, like, you know, the artist being in tune with the Force. And again, obviously you can have like artist Jedi, which is pretty much like what I'm doing here as well. So I mean, it's important for you to think about that as to like how people can be in tune with the Force, in tune with like higher awareness, synchronicity, power of the conscious mind, without needing to be a Jedi. So I'm actually really interested to see how Maz Kanata will come back into the story. So another big conscious theme within this revolves around the character of Kylo Ren, the son of Leia and Han. One of the things that's really interesting is the idea that even Leia says, you know, like there's still light within him. And there's the big scene where Kylo Ren and Han are talking face to face just before he kills Han. Again, you know, spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. But basically, like, he says, you know, like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. And he's talking about, you know, like, kind of being able to like move forward with the light. And that's kind of like reflecting back to this idea of even what Yoda was saying, you know, like the dark path is like the quick and easy path. So sometimes being the light actually takes more courage and more strength. And that's like an important thing to remember is the idea that, like, you know, we're constantly testing our willpower, and it's easy to take the easy path, but ask yourself what the harder path is. And sometimes the harder path is actually like being able to like evoke the courage and the nobility and the honor and the virtue and the kindness and the compassion. Like, it's easy to be apathetic. Sometimes it's harder to like actively open our heart to the world, but as we do that, it continues to like add more momentum to that part of ourselves. And as you move down the dark side, it'll consume you more. You know, it's kind of like that analogy of there's two wolves inside of you, the light and the dark. Which one do you feed? Is whichever one becomes stronger in that sense. So Kylo Ren has been feeding the dark wolf, but the light wolf is still inside of him. So that's actually going to be part of the story in the future ones, is Kylo Ren being able to make a transition from the dark path to the light, which again I think is an echo of culture. You know, like culture has become so ingrained with greed and just like envy and just gluttony and just like all of these things, and we can still change. You know, we still have the ability to transform ourselves. You're never like 100% totally in the dark side. There's always going to be the light within you, but again, you know, seeing beyond the duality, light and dark are actually one and the same. So it's really interesting to see that coming through Kylo Ren's character, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves within the series. And another interesting sort of like Easter egg within the story is that Kylo Ren's actual name is Ben. And again, Ben is referring to Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So when you think about it, like Han and Leia named their son Ben, which again sort of reflects Han's actual like realization as to like how real the Force actually is within reality and everything. So that was just like another little cool thing that we'll see within the story that will I think turn into something more. And so another hint at a conscious theme within this comes through the character of Poe Dameron. We see Poe Dameron, he's this awesome fighter pilot, and I think we're actually going to find out that he is in tune with the Force. In the same way how I was talking about Maz Kanata, you know, like you don't have to be a Jedi to be in tune with the Force. We're going to see that come through Poe, I think. He's going to talk about how he uses the Force to become such an awesome pilot, which again I think is a reflection of like what we see within the expertise of martial arts and athletes. That is very much them tapping into that intuitive flow, that zone, that force that allows them to really be able to like move forward without having to doubt themselves, to get out of their own way, which I think is a big part of like this learning, to really be able to activate those Jedi senses and awareness. A lot of it is like moving ourselves out of our own way and trusting the process and going forward in that sense. So we may find out that Poe is actually either a secret Jedi or maybe he's a Jedi in Awakening, but either way, there's something to Poe. He's an important character, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we get out of him. This movie did an awesome job, I think, of planting those seeds. And of course, the way how the movie ends, we see Rey and Luke meeting, but they haven't talked yet. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be very exciting to see where things go in terms of getting more in depth of revealing just how real the Force actually is. So Luke's going to be talking a little bit about it more. There's going to be more like Jedi training, shaman type scenes. And I will just say this, you know, like I think within the story of Star Wars, we may actually get a hint of learning a little bit more about Luke's own struggles, because you know people always sort of see Luke as like this good Jedi Knight sort of thing, but if you look back at the last Star Wars, and there's like this whole theory about this, Luke was actually very close to like going to the dark side. If you look at a lot of the stuff that he did, he was very much driven by anger and used those darker emotions to fuel his powers. So we may actually see that. We may actually hear a really heart-opening story from Luke about his own challenges, and then I think his connection with Rey will actually be able to inspire him a little bit more on his journey, and then he'll maybe get a little bit more involved with the plot. So it's never too late in that sense for ourselves as individuals, for ourselves as culture, to be able to perform that internal alchemy and move forward into higher awareness and being able to be of better service to helping shift consciousness inside and outside. So in conclusion, I enjoyed the movie. It was great, and I think it did a really good job of planting those conscious seeds, and obviously we're gonna have to wait until the next one comes out until they really start blossoming within culture even more. But already, you know, people are talking about the Jedi, people are awakening to the themes within themselves, and that's like a really important thing. So I'm excited to see where this movie goes, where the series goes, and thank you to J.J. Abrams for doing a good job on this and for leaving us a little bit of mystery to talk about even more. Mystery is mystery more important than knowledge. If you have any more conscious themes, then please feel free to leave comments below, and check out any of the other conscious movie reviews I did. And thank you so much for checking this out. Subscribe to my channel for more movies, for more videos, and the Force is with us always. So until next time, I'll see you guys in the future. And thanks, J.J. Abrams. You did a good job. Peace. I love you guys. One love.
Follow me.
A new journey begins.
You're sure you're up for this?
Hell no.